Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to another episode of Legal Ease, the show that converts legal jargon into legal ease. And tonight we'll be covering a very, very important subject, the subject of rules of inheritance from the Quran, or inheritance rules from the Quran. Now, before I introduce my guest tonight, who's also a presenter, he has his own show on ITV, I'd like to just sketch a brief background of a very important case recently emanating out of the Western Cape High Court. In September 2017, there was a case where a judge in the Western Cape Court was faced with a possibility of a claim by a third wife in a Muslim polygamous marriage. The husband had died, and the second wife was the partner in the civil union, and her name was included in the title deed. And the registrar of the deeds office only recognized her as the surviving spouse. And then the third spouse brought an application in the Cape High Court to be recognized as a spouse, and the judge held that she will be recognized as a spouse and ordered the registrar to include her name on the title deed. So a significant development in the, let's say, de facto recognition of polygamous Muslim marriages. And that, by way of background, is a topic that we'll be examining a little bit deeper. So tonight it gives me great pleasure once again to introduce and bring Abdul Samad Abdul Qadir. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. It's my pleasure to be with you, Ashraf.
Always good having you here.
Jazakallah.
You're an expert in Arabic language. You teach Arabic.
Well, I would say in a humble way, I'm more like a student of the language. I wouldn't call myself expert. That is far from it.
Okay, well, a wonderful description nevertheless. But in respect of, we've done a show previously on talaq.
Yes.
And but that's not the topic for tonight.
No.
But there it was very clear, and I think just by way of recapping some of the issues, it was not a 3-in-1.
Yeah.
It was a process, and this was now upheld by the Indian High Court.
Exactly, not so long ago.
That's right. So this is one of the last states in the world to actually say a 3-in-1 is not a talaq.
Exactly. It is not simultaneously done.
Right.
Will be counted as one, provided the other conditions apply.
Okay. But that's now maintenance in respect of divorce is different from inheritance. So what do we understand by the term inheritance itself?
Well, as a lawyer, you should know inheritance is what possession one generation has to pass it to the next generation.
Right.
Because everything, you see, must be owned. And when what we read in the Quran, for instance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَلِكُلِّ جَعَلْنَا مَوَالِيَ, that Allah has appointed for everyone is going to be an heir. There's no such thing as saying that mimma tarakal walidain, and what has been left behind by parents, and wal aqrabun, and by close relatives. You see, now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala differentiates between close relatives and ordinary relatives. You find in the Quran we use aqrab from the word qarib. Aqrab is superlative, and aqrab actually would reply to your siblings and your ascendants and your descendants. And then wallazina aqatta aymanakum fa'atuhunna nasibahum, to those whom your oaths have bound you. For instance, the husband and a wife, by oath you have bound them. Allah says, so give them their share also. So at the outset, what we learn that everybody is entitled to some share, some inheritance. And what Allah is actually, we use, Inna Allah kana ala kulli shayin shahida. Allah is witness over everything. But another very important thing we learn is that nobody is going to be deprived of an inheritance on account of his or her gender. Right. Allah says, لِلْرِجَالِ نَصِيبٌ مِمَّا تَرَكَ. that a male, and rijal meaning male, man, here we translate it as male, is nasibun, is a share, mimma tarakal walidaini wal aqrabun, whatever the walidain meaning the parents and the al aqrabun. You see, again Allah used the word al aqrabun, meaning the close relatives. Close relatives meaning your father, your grandfather, your brother, your sister, you see, or your parent. Walin nisa'i nasibu mimma tarakal walidani wal aqrabin. So also, and for the females, that is the women, there is a share of what parents and close relatives leave. So which means that as far as Islam is concerned, there should be no bar, because we know in a lot of societies where the women were not entitled to inherit. And this is also, besides when we say that, and for females is a share of what, we hear a lot of stories where we find that that people deprive their daughters of their share. They give it to the sons, and they feel that if they're owning a business, why should the daughter have a share of it and split up the business? Now people must take note that Allah says, Walin nisa'i nasibu mimma tarakal walidain wal aqrabun. And then mimma qalla, irrespective of whether it is qalla meaning small, aw kasara, whether it is a very large amount. You see, so the male and the female, they will be under no circumstances are we to deprive. And Allah says it is mafruda. What in my mafruda? It is fard. It is obligatory. Now we come
let's go back there.
All right.
I think what you've raised is incredibly important. What you said was, I think at that time, this must have been a seismic shift, that females were now entitled to inherit,
yes,
be it little or much.
Or much.
But I think that last sentence, an obligatory share,
yes,
it's like farad. It's
yes,
like what
farad.
You said, salah is
yes,
a farad.
You
so
see
if
the
you're
word,
using
you
the
see
word
mafruda,
yeah,
you can see the word fard there.
Yes.
Yes.
So you cannot escape. You cannot escape that obligation.
Yes, exactly. It's a warning to people who want to deprive their daughters in particular. But we hear so many stories that the daughters were not given, or the wives were not given, you see, the proper share what they were entitled to.
Yes.
So this is something that they must consider. You
Right.
see. Now you see what happens many a time, that at the time of when you are distributing,
Yes.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us one may also consider other relatives.
Yes.
Right, your cousins, your uncle who may be poor at that time, like وَإِذَا حَضَرَ الْقِسْمَةَ, right, and when the share is being distributed, then you must also think of ulul qurba. You see now, ulul qurba is different from al-aqrabun. I said al-aqrabun are the very close relatives.
Yes, yes.
Al-qurba are those relatives, other relatives like your cousins, your uncles, or things like that. And wal-yatama, orphans, and wal masakin, that this you should also consider them while you are making up your will. And then farzuquhum minhu, that you must provide them, because you see, you got to be generous at all time, every action. Islam emphasizes a lot, waqulu lahu qawlan karima ma'rufa, meaning speak to them in very good talks or appropriate or approved speeches, so that they must not know that they are being deprived of something, that they are giving an optional something that they do not actually are entitled to. Now we come to...
But I think again, that last bit is extremely important, because the one speaks of actual physical property.
Yes.
The other one speaks of kind words. So in other words, if you're giving the property, you can't give it with harsh words. You
Yes.
can't say bad things and say, take this.
Yeah, but more so what it must be done, for instance, when you are giving the other relatives,
yes,
the orphans and the masaki, meaning
Yeah.
those are very needy, that they must be told, we are giving you as an optional thing. You are not getting things because you are entitled by
Yeah.
law to it. This is, but in a
Right.
kind way they must be told.
Yes.
Because maybe they are being given a little amount, and they will say, yeah, you're giving your own children extra, what about us?
Okay.
So you speak to them kindly, see, you are an orphan, I'm giving you this thing, and maybe you are an adopted child or something,
Yeah.
which we'll come to later on.
Right.
Now we come to this very important thing of what we call al-wasiya, the bequest, and
Right.
in law we call it the will.
Right.
Now in Islam, you see, I take it like this, that you must have a leveling ground.
Yes.
What do you mean by leveling ground? Especially you find in society, most of us, whether we are a business person, we are ordinary people going to work, professional people like yourself, lawyers, doctors, artisans, whatever you are, you always have people, either your children or your wife has been helping you to amass that wealth.
Right.
So what happens, say for instance, you have got a loaf of bread, there are so many slices there, that every slice does not belong to you, that you are going to make the will to say, these are the 15 slices. No, you must give those people who have helped you. Who has helped you? Sometime you have grown old, you find that your older children may have come into the business and worked for you. The wife has been slogging for you for 30, 40 years. It is not something you're going to give them as an inheritance. So let us see, you see, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Kutiba alaykum. Now what do you mean by Kutiba alaykum? Kutiba, it means is prescribed. Like for instance, you say, Kutiba alaykumus siyam. That is, siyam has been prescribed upon you, it becomes fard.
Fasting.
So in the same way, Allah says, Iza hadara ahadakumul maut, when death approaches you, at all times, in other words, taraka, that if you have left, and taraka here means any wealth, form of a house, bank balance, a motor car, and business, whatever you have, that is what Allah means. So what happened? Al-wasiyatu, that you make al-wasiyah, what al-wasiyah, bequest or a will, for whom? Lil-walidain, that is your parents, wal-aqrabin. Again, you see, I told you, aqrab and ulul qurba, there's two different words. These are close relatives, right? But what is very important, you make that bequest bil ma'ruf, meaning on reasonable grounds. Now what is that? As I was telling you, that in fact most of our lifestyle is such that we make our children work, especially the daughters come into the business, they work, they are married and they are gone. What happens? The father actually should make a wasiyah there, to say that my eldest daughter worked for me so many years, I'm giving her 3% of my estate, or 5 or 10.
So there is this common belief, right?
Yes.
That males inherit twice that of
Yeah,
females.
we're coming to that just now.
What I'm saying is this particular point of yours is a point apart from what they inherit in the end. Here you're saying it's a bequest up front, over and above what you would normally give, let's say according to the ratios or the formulas.
Yeah.
Over and above that, there's nothing wrong in giving them
Yes.
a percentage, as
Yeah,
you say.
But you see, haqqan alal muttaqeen. Now why? Because as I told you, we got to level the ground.
Right.
Now you have the wife who, say for instance, your estate is worth 1 million rand. Right. Now your wife has been working for you. You've been married for 30 or 40 years. You are a businessman. She's been coming there looking after the till. Or for instance, you are a lawyer. She's been doing the invoice from home. Or as a doctor, she's been running to the medical aid for all that work for you. And you have amassed that 1 million rand with her help. You see, so that is not her share, inheritance. This is, she's part of your estate. She's owning it. So either 20 or 30% already belongs to the wife. You follow?
See, there's a similar system in the civil law.
Yes.
If a woman is married in community of property or even out of community of property, and she's contributed to the raising of the children or the household or payment, she's entitled to approach the court and say, I want to be recognized for my contribution. And the court will then work out how much it would have cost for a nanny, a cook, etc., and make that allocation and say, this was your contribution, even if you just sat at home bringing up the children.
Very important. I agree with that.
So actually it looks to me that there was roots way back in Islam for this kind of regime.
You see, Allah says in the Quran, you see, if you look at Surah in chapter 17, when you make dua for your parents, Allahumma arhamhuma kama rabbayani saghira. Oh Allah, have mercy on my father and my mother as they both did upbringing me. So which means it was the father's duty. So here is the mother who left school, she was teaching or she was doing some work. She retired from work to be at home when the children came. So what happened? She actually, her earning power was cut. Now she has contributed to the wife to put on the clothes, go to work, come back. She took the children to school. She did their homework. She ran after the pictures. When they were sick, she ran. She did everything which the father is supposed to. So that is her contribution. Therefore, I have enumerated, for instance, the wife's contribution to the estate over so many years, as you have pointed out,
Yes.
that it does not necessarily that she have to be in business.
Yes.
The fact that she played the role of a wife and forego and she sacrificed her source of income. So obviously that's a contribution. Then the elder children's contribution, and especially the daughters. You see, the daughters are there in business. They are there with the father, and one by one they get married. Then the younger brothers come, and what happened? We have forgotten the daughter's contribution. So that is the meaning of wasiya. You write, and then education of younger children. You can even write to you in your will to say, I've educated my two elder sons. One I made a lawyer, the other one is a doctor or a professional, and I want to leave some money for my younger child. Besides the inheritance, he can write that. Then you might have a disabled child.
Okay.
You say, okay, let me write something for my disabled child. Or a person who paid off the housing loan. Now, this is a very common problem I get, where you find that the brothers are married, they are married, then they are gone. You find the daughter stays, she's not married also, right? She stays with the parents and she pays a bond of the house, right? The house is free. Now, she paid, you can say, about 80% of the house loan. So what happens? The father should write in his will to say, this house, 80% of it is owned by my daughter because she has paid the loan. It's her property. Then from the balance of the 20%, then you can make, you see, like for instance, a return of favor. What do you mean by?
Before we go there,
Yeah.
we just need to go for a short ad
Okay.
break. Please stay tuned and join us after the break. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back to Legal Ease, the show that converts legal jargon into legal ease. And tonight it gives me great pleasure to host Abdul Samad Abdul Qadir, and a Islamic scholar, and I would say a expert at the Arabic language. Tonight we're discussing the rules of inheritance, and thus far we've covered what inheritance is from the Quran, what property is, and who is entitled to what. So before we get any further into it, Brother Abdul Samad, you're making a very important point, that another category of person that deserves to be, let's say, given part of the estate is the one that has done a favor to you.
Yes, a favor. For instance, in your younger days, you were not in a position to go to university.
Right.
Right, or set up a business. And here was an uncle, he was generous enough to come and help you to complete your studies, or maybe he has helped you to say that you want to set up a business, I'll give you a loan or give you a start. So obviously now that you are old, you find that uncle may have a grandchild who is at the university, so say, let me return that favor. Right, you write that in your will to say that I want to see, I'm giving X amount for this child to complete this education because of the grandfather or the father did me a favor.
So some of these Islamic standard wills that I've seen that you can get over the counter, so to speak, they have spaces for that. So this is the first time I've actually heard what these bequests and special payments mean.
And then like for instance, the wife's 1 year keep, according to chapter 2, verse 240.
Yes.
Allah says that when a person dies, he must leave for 1 year's board and lodge for his wife. And that is one of the first things that you should take out.
Now, a very important point there. When you talk of upkeep, right, in the civil law, you have to maintain the spouse and the children up according to the standards that they were used to. So, in other words, from what you're saying, let's say she was used to 100,000 a month lifestyle, which meant cars and medical aid and travels and whatever. You actually have to make provision for that.
Yeah, well, it depends according to your means, you see.
No, those are the means that she was used to. Now, you are saying that from your estate, obviously, if you've had, because the previous slide said if you have the means, I mean, then you leave that.
Then you come to the question of the adopted child. You see, adopted child is not a biological child. He's not entitled to inheritance in the shares when you look at chapter 4, verse 11 and 12. So you leave something for the adopted child. Actually, anonymous adoption is not allowed in Islam.
Right.
You see, because what happened, it will lead to incest, etc.
Yes,
and
yes,
all
yes.
that. So then about donation, like for instance,
Again, let me just stop you on the adopted child. Again, a misnomer there is that often it is said that adopted children cannot inherit, but this puts a different spin to it. Yes, they
Exactly.
could not inherit in terms of the legal formula. Let's
Exactly.
call it the legal formula.
Yes.
But nothing stops you from leaving for that adopted child
Exactly. Yes.
in the will.
Yes.
Interesting.
Then you have donation. For
Yes.
instance, you can give to, like we have our SA Awqaf Foundation.
Yes.
Right. So we can say, right, we want to give something to donation. Now we come to this problem here now. Once you have made the will, Allah says, فَمَنْ بَدَّلَهُ بَعْدَ مَا سَمِعَهُ, then whoever alters it, that is the bequest, after she has heard it, then the sin is upon him, only those who have altered it. Right. So in other words, once you feel that everything is in order, right, there is no such thing as any underhand work, there is no wrong thing, so you can't. But at the same time, Allah has given you permission, correction of the bequest on justified reasons. For instance, فَمَنْ خَافَ مِن مُوسٍ جَنَفًا أَوْ إِثْمًا. But if one fears from the testator, the one who makes the will, an error, right, or a sin, for instance, he may have favored one child more than the other child, and the community or the relatives feel, no, this is an injustice, or this shouldn't be done. Then Allah says, فَأَصْلَحَ بَيْنَهُمْ فَلَا إِسْمَ عَلَيْهِ. Then correct it among them, then there is no sin. For instance, if you feel that this child has been educated as a doctor, and now the father is giving him extra year too in his wasiyah, besides the legal in this thing. So the family says, no, let us get together and speak to them and correct this thing. So that you are justified in terms of chapter 2, verse 182. Right. Now, as you were talking about, the share for a female is double of a male is double of a female. Yusikumullahu fi awladikum. Right. Allah instructs you concerning your children. Right, like for a parent. So what happened, the principle in Islam is lidhakari misla hazzil unsayen, for the male what is equal to 2 females. Right. Now you find that on the outset it will actually, some women ask me that this seems to be very unjust, how can you do that? But what happens is that, you see, if the women demand everything equal, right, you must remember in Islam, financially, they are on a better wicket, because you see, first of all, who pays the mahar? So if you want equal on everything, then the women want to start paying dowry at the time of wedding. Then the right and the duty of maintenance is upon the husband, right? So that is a duty. Allah says in chapter 4, verse 35, وَبِمَا أَنْفَقُوا مِنْ أَمْوَالِهِمْ, on account of the fact that they actually spend out of the wealth. And we know in the time of expectancy, when they are expectant or anything, and even during divorce, or then we just mentioned that 1 year when
for the widow,
all
yes.
that, you find if you count all those benefits, right, they are getting more than what actually that half that they were deprived of, they didn't get, right? So Allah, first thing is, فَإِن كُنَّ نِسَاءً, now we're talking about the daughter's inheritance. If there are daughters only, 2 or more, right, a person got 2 daughters or 5 daughters or 15 or 10 daughters, whatever it is.
Yeah.
فَلَهُنَّ سُلُسًا مَا تَرَكَ, then you have 2/3. If the father has, for instance, 300,000, so 200,000 will be distributed among the daughters. That is the first. These are the compulsory. Now, after your wasiyat,
yes,
you carry that out first. Then you find that if you have wakanat wahidatan, if there is only 1 daughter, right, then she gets half of the father's estate, if there is only 1 daughter. Now we're talking about the daughters. Now
it doesn't matter if the daughter is married and out of the father's house. Am I right?
No, at all times.
So that's very important, because earlier on you were just talking about why should the male get twice that of the female?
Yes.
Because the daughter will get even from the husband. She will get from another estate.
Yes, but remember, if she, for instance, had been working in the father's business,
yes,
or helped the father, she will also get something from the
Remember,
bequest.
now we covered that rule,
Yeah.
right? That is over and above. Let's call this is the formula now.
Yes, this is the compulsory formula.
Right. But in the compulsory formula, it's interesting to see that they get half of the male. But the reasons you've given us very clear reasons.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Also, if there are only, for instance, if there's only one daughter, she gets half.
Gets half, right.
Right. Now we know that the boys, we told them they are going to get twice the share of the female. Now we come to the parents. Right. If the parents are alive, by the time the person makes a will. So wali abawayhi li kulli wahidin minhuma sudus. For parents, each of them, right, you get 1/6 of the estate. If kana lahu waladan, if the child, if the person who's making the will, who made the will, deceased, had a child, even one child, right? If your son or the daughter had died and you are still alive, so you are entitled 1/6 each. But فَإِنْ لَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُ وَلَدْ, but if there were no children, right? وَوَرِثَهُ أَبَوَاهُ, then what you call the heirs is only the parents, right? If the parents are alive, then what happens? The mother is going to get 1/3 and the father is going to get 2/3. Right. Now we come to فَإِنْ كَانَ لَهُ إِخْوَةٌ, right? If they, for instance, in this case, if they were only parents and no brothers and sisters, right? So the mother is going to get 1/3 and the father is going to get 2/3. Why 2/3? Because the father will still have to spend on the mother. That is the wisdom behind this whole thing. And then you get فَإِنْ كَانَ لَهُ إِخْوَةٌ. For instance, if that person had إِخْوَةٌ, brothers and sisters, siblings, فَلِأُمِّهِ سُدُسٌ, then the mother is going to get a 1/6 and the father is going to get 1/3. The rest is going to go to the siblings, 2 shares to the boys, 1 share to the girl. Now, min ba'di, now this is a very important part. Every time Allah talks about bequest, about giving your legal inheritance, this phrase always comes there after any bequest he may have made. Right, and we said earlier all the bequests he could have made, right? People who had done favor to charity and all that thing, right? And then he has, what about the debts? Wa'udain, he may be owing people money. So first thing is you got to subtract 3 things here, we see. You got to subtract the widow's 1-year maintenance. You got to subtract the anything that he has said in a bequest. And remember, all those points we have mentioned earlier in the bequest, it is not compulsory that he must do it.
Sure, that is voluntary.
Right, it is certain things are...
It's recommended.
Yeah, but that what is very, very important is those who have contributed to your estate, that I would say is compulsory.
Yes.
Like giving of donation and giving something in favor, somebody has done favor to you, or giving to the orphans and all that thing.
Yes.
Those are optional.
Okay.
But those, like for instance, your older children who have come into your business and helped you to grow that business, your daughters in particular, which we rob actually.
Yes, yes.
So those things I would say is compulsory.
Okay.
That I would even count it as debt, not only as bequest.
Right.
You see. Then faridatan min Allah. Now you come to the husband share.
Before we go to the husband share, we have to go for a quick short ad break.
All right.
Please stay tuned. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back to Legal Ease, the show that converts legal jargon into legal ease. My very special guest tonight is Abdul Samad Abdul Qadir, and we are dealing with the rules of inheritance from the Quran, or inheritance rules from the Quran. And thus far it's been a fascinating learning experience for me. You are welcome to join the conversation, or you can pose questions by dialing the studio and putting your questions to my guest. A reminder that he is a radio personality as well, and a lot of his lectures can be found on YouTube. I think that in due course this particular episode will also be captured on YouTube. Brother Abdul, just before the break we were talking about, we were going to the husband's share.
Yes.
How's the husband's share now?
The husband's share is also, for instance, when there are children, there is a child is one thing. Like for instance, وَلَكُمْ نِصْفُ مَا تَرَكَ أَزْوَاجُكُمْ. And for you is half of what your wives leave. إِن لَمْ يَكُنْ لَهُنْ وَلَدًا. If there isn't a child.
Right.
You are married, you have no children, so you get half of your wife's estate. فَإِن kana lahunna walad, but if they have a child, that is the women, the wives have the child, falakum rub'u mimma tarakna, then for you is 1/4, that is fourth, a quarter of what they leave if there is a child.
Right.
Right. So in other words, if there is a child, you get quarter. If there is no child, you get half. So same thing now, very, very important. Min ba'di wasiyatun yusina biha, the bequest. They may have, even the women they are entitled to make a bequest. She can write to say, I'm going to give my father so much, my son, my this one so much, my that so much. She can write her own. You see, there's min ba'di.
So if I understand correct, the bequest is the first charge, the debt is the second charge.
Yes.
Then the balance goes to the, let's say, formula heirs.
Exactly, to the legal heirs.
Legal heirs, yes.
Right.
This is according
so
to
this
the
is
formula.
actually, I take the wasiya as a leveling ground.
Right.
To me, what is the most important part of the wasiya would be that those who have contributed, you cut their slice and give them first.
Right. We have a call on the line. Caller, please go ahead. Hello.
Islam.
Islam. Can we ask you to please turn down your TV? We're having feedback in the studio. Okay, please go ahead.
Okay. Learned Brother Abdul Qadir will ask him a question. Is concerning the inheritance if you pass away, and if the brothers, do they have a right of claiming an eighth of your share? Taking into account if they haven't played any role as far as yourself is concerned and your parents, and if one brother has played a big role in looking after the parents, the grandparents, the sister, and so forth, but they didn't play a big role in any type of assistance, and they also had a care of who cares, attitude of who cares. And what the result are? Where does this eighth come in? Because I find it a bit unlogical that only about a brother could answer this question for me.
Thank you very much.
Well, I think we have made that very, very clear. These are contributions. Like I gave an example of the contribution of children. Like I gave an example like we have in our society where a daughter is working and she paid the loan. And then after that, what happens? That is she going to only be given the legal share, or she must give, that will come under debts. Now if the brother has been looking after the father and the mother and even the grandparents, now he must decide if he feels I did it and I invested my money, he can treat that as a loan, that I gave my parents a loan, and he can say, all right, the other brothers didn't spend the money, I gave them, I spent it 100,000 in caring for my parents over so many years, or 200,000 my earning. He must keep an account, which is very important. So right, cut that slice out, as we said in the very beginning, it's a leveling ground. So that wasiyat, he can say, right, my big son looked after me, and I'm giving him his 250,000 rand of all my assets before he gets his share. That is justified. That is justified.
So I think just for the clarification of the caller, he was saying, where does the 1/8 come? He was saying that if you contributed nothing, are you still entitled to your 1/8? And what you're saying is, whoever contributed must take their shares first.
Their share.
Whatever is left over.
Exactly. Everybody
is a formula.
Entitled, yes.
Everyone is entitled. So no one can be cut out by the testator.
You see, we did that very first, Wali Rijali Natsibu Mimaktara Kalwali Deni Karabun, that for a male is a portion of what the parents and the close relatives have left. Wali Nisa Nasibu Mimaktara Kalwali, and for a female is a portion of what the parents, Walidain,
right.
Walakrabun, and the close relative, meaning the child, brother or something.
Right.
So nobody can be robbed.
Ever be cut out.
Yes.
So even if the testator doesn't speak to you and doesn't have a good relationship, at the end of the day, you will get from the estate what is due.
Yes. You see the very first verse you started off.
Yes.
وَلِكُلِّ جَعَلْنَاكُمْ مَوْلَى, that we have made everybody an heir.
Right.
Right, that everybody is entitled. You cannot say, I'm not going to give this son anything because I didn't want him to marry so and so.
Yes, you can't begrudge him from the grave.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't say, my daughter got married, right, without my permission to this man here, and I
Yeah.
want him to marry this one. You can't do those things. You follow? Those things are not. So this is a very important.
Sorry, we have another caller on the line.
Okay, sure.
Caller, please go ahead.
Hello, Assalamualaikum.
Assalam.
I will speak to the guest who asked the question.
Sure, please go ahead. But please turn down your TV.
Sure, Jay. Okay.
Go ahead.
I just like to ask that if your mother leaves you a property and she passes away, how do you distribute in terms of Sharia with two sisters? Is it the same as applies your father dies and he owns property?
So sorry, the
Yes,
line is very
I
bad,
think what
but
his
you
question
got
is
the question.
that in a manner in which you will what you call distribute your father's estate, are you going to do the same thing to your mother's estate? Yes.
Yes.
You must remember, as far as the children are concerned, they are going to be treated in the same way. The boys are going to get 2 shares and the girls are going to get 1 share. But the father is going to, if the father is alive, and then of course there are children in this case, the father will get a quarter first.
Quarter only, yes. We covered
Right,
that,
quarter.
yes.
That is a very important point.
Right.
So I hope it's clear
Yeah.
that in the same way as you distribute for your mother.
Excellent. Sorry, Mr. Abdul Samad. We got another caller. Caller, please
Okay.
go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum
Assalam.
salam.
I just to ask a question to clarify. The question is, from what I understand, that whoever is entitled, you are not supposed to leave any rest to that person.
Sorry.
The whole discussion is about, yes, you can level the playing field as Leonard Speaker is saying.
Sorry, the line is very poor.
didn't
You know, it's
understand what
dropping.
he's
I didn't
saying.
understand. We don't understand the question. Please repeat it. Please switch off your television. That's really creating severe problems for us. Okay, we have another caller on the line. Caller, please go ahead. Please, a reminder to all our callers and viewers, please switch off your TV when you call. Caller, please go ahead. Hello?
I'm sitting in Iddat, and what is a ruling after 50 years of marriage?
So
I
you-
listen on the radio.
So you are a widow. You're sitting in Iddat.
No, I'm not a widow. I'm
divorcee.
still married. Yeah.
You're going through a divorce. You're in Iddat.
Yeah,
You want to know what is the rule regarding inheritance.
yeah.
But you're not an heir then, are you? If you're divorced.
No. You see, she has been divorced.
Yes.
Right. Now she have to make a settlement. Quran says that in chapter 2, verse 241, وَلِلْمُطَلَّقَاتِ مَتَاعٌ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, that for a divorced woman there is a recognized form of maintenance. It will depend. Now, for instance, Allah says bil ma'ruf means on recognized ground. Like in her case, she was married for 50 years. Right? So 50 years, what is the first thing is, what is her contribution to the joint estate of the husband at the time of divorce? She must be given that amount. If she has contributed to the husband's business about 20% or 25%, right, she must be given that, number one. Number two, in chapter 4, verse 241, and we know that famous Sharbanu case that took place in India, right?
Yes.
Right, in the time of Rajiv Gandhi in the 80s. Now that is a Quranic law. We're not talking about the Hanafi law. Quran says that she must give mata'un bil ma'ruf. Like a young wife is divorced, she's a professional person. So Allah says bil ma'ruf, on that will be a different ground altogether. You're not going to give her a certain amount. But now that a woman has been divorced after 50 years, so obviously she must be given more upkeep, especially if she is not educated, a professional person, she cannot fend for herself. Obviously, it is the court or the Qazi must decide that she must be given. That verse is very clear, chapter 2. And sister, you are not sitting for it, that you are observing the Iddat. This is very important, you must understand.
Okay. So I hope that answers your question. Just to be clear, those rules are separate from inheritance. in terms of the rules of
Yes,
Quran.
exactly.
We have another caller. Caller, please go ahead.
Hello?
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 Please go ahead. We can hear you.
Okay, man. I want to know from the Sheikh, and it's linked to the previous question in which the brother got cut off. We have understood wasiyat to be given to a non-inheritor. But the Sheikh is saying you can give to the inheritor an extra. Please clarify that.
Yes, you see, as I said, the Quran says, we read in the very beginning, right? What we read in the beginning, right? That what Allah says, that kutiba alaykum al-wasiyatu, right? Lil walidaini wal aqrabin. What is the meaning of lil walidain? Right? It means parents.
Yeah, yeah.
Al aqrabin, close relatives. I mean, there may be, like as I said, what is a wasiyat lil walidain? For instance, you have your old parents are staying in your house, right? Now, the moment you say that, right, okay, that this thing here, we are not going to give, I'm going to share everything out. So, are the parents are going to be in the street? Or are you going to say, no, my old parents are staying in the house, right? And I would say that this portion of the house must not be given to the heirs until such time my parents are allowed to stay there, they die, then that must come into the estate, must be distributed. He can write that in the will. Right.
So I think just for clarification, the question was simply, can you be, let's say, a part of a bequest and an heir in terms of a formula?
Well,
so the answer is yes.
Well, check up chapter 2. We did
Yes.
right at the very beginning.
Right.
Right, we can go to that
Yeah,
verse.
let's just cover that chapter again.
We can go to that verse very quickly because Allah
I think that's a starting point, isn't
yeah.
it?
You see, Allah says, right, for instance, there's a verse here. Now read that verse. Kutiba alaykum, right?
Prescribed.
Prescribed for you. When death approaches any one of you, if he, she release a wealth, al-wasiyatu, right, a bequest, lil walidain. What is the meaning of walidain? Parents. Wal aqrabin, close relative. Bil ma'ruf, the Quran has made it very, very clear, on recognized and reasonable terms. Like I gave you an example, like for instance, you are going to give the mother, a father a certain share, you're going to give the mother a certain share. But the mother is suffering from cerebral palsy, right? Aren't you going to say, right, in my wasiyah, I'm going to write a little extra for my mother because she's suffering from an extra, she needs extra care,
Yes.
right? Or the parents are living in your house.
Yes.
Are you going to say, right, the house must be distributed straight away, or are you going to write it there to say, no, this house must be given? Like I gave an example, aqrabin, meaning your son. You educated your two sons earlier,
Yes.
right? They have become, one has become a doctor, one has become a lawyer, and the other child is still in the high school.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? You're going to give him his share, right?
Yeah.
And you have educated the other two children.
Yes.
Right, this is what I say, that wasiyah is a leveling ground.
Yes, yes.
Right.
I think that was an important starting point that we perhaps missed, and we do miss, just in daily
Yeah.
understanding
Yes.
of this, that before we come to prescribe shares,
Yes.
in terms of a
Yes.
formula,
Yes.
there is preceding that
Yes.
a bequest. And you saying, in addition to a prescribed heir.
Not I say, there's
yes,
a verse
no,
there.
you're what you're saying.
Yeah.
That in addition to the prescribed share,
yes.
a prescribed heir can also have a bequest.
On special grounds.
Oh,
You
if it
see,
says
Allah
on
says,
reasonable
bil
terms,
ma'roof,
yes.
bil ma'roof. Bil ma'roof means on reasonable ground. As I said, you have 3 sons, you have educated the 2. They've become professional. The 3rd son is still in the university.
Yes.
You are entitled to say, right, I'm leaving X amount for my son to go to university.
Right.
That is aqrab, means your close relative.
Okay.
Your parents, your father is there, he is a disabled person, besides he's going to get his share, he will need extra care. Right? You can write, you say, my father is disabled, right? I leave an X amount for his special
I think
care.
the point of departure is always, I think people become hamstrung by this, that they're going to sin
Yes.
if they leave anything over the 2/3, 1/3.
Exactly.
I think we seem to be set on that 2/3, 1/3 as a rule, and then we say it's a sin to give over and above that. But you've shown it to be otherwise.
But you see, this Quran says, Al-Wasiyatu lil walidain wal aqrabin, chapter 2, verse 180. Have a look at it.
That's the authority
Right,
for what you're saying.
Chapter 2, verse 180. There's it. You can go through your Quran and check it, what Allah says. Al-wasiyatu lil walidain. Walidain means parents, but it's on special circumstances. For instance, if you have your father, for instance, has been helping you in your business, right? You say, right, my father is 10% shareholder of my business. He must be given that amount first. Aqrabin, my son, my daughter, my eldest daughter. My eldest daughter. So this is, you're not giving them a share. What you're giving them, you're giving them a slice of what they are already owning, and you are treating certain cases on a special cases where you find that you have a child that is cerebral palsy, you're living extra, you have your parents are staying in your house, you do not want them to be kicked out, you say they are allowed to stay, you write it in your bequest to your will, to say my father and my mother must be allowed to stay in my house as long as they are alive. After that it can come into the estate and distribute it on that ground.
Unfortunately, yes. Yeah, I think that makes it very clear. I hope that answers your question. Unfortunately, we've run out of time.
Okay, all right.
And sorry we couldn't come to the end of the topic.
I think we have covered up most of it. Besides the wife share, we haven't done that.
Right.
The wife, if there are no children,
yes,
the wife gets a quarter. If there are children, she gets 1/8.
That's
the only thing we didn't mention. Okay. That's towards the end of it. Then there are other cases where we call the kalala, where you find that a youngster, a man or a woman died issueless, without any child, without any this thing. So those are, they can go into the Quran. You find that towards the end of chapter 4 verse 12 and chapter 4 verse 176, you'll find the answers there.
Okay, we've tried to assist you in understanding this topic. Thank you for having joined the conversation, and thanks for your calls and contributions. And thank you,
and welcome, shukran, inshallah, for having invited me to this program.
I appreciate your input.
Jazakallah.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.